monsters like him just don't have a heart. Instead, Austin gets up and he walks into the bathroom and he turns on the faucet to the bathtub and he starts filling it up with hot water. And when the tub is full enough, when there's enough water to completely cover a person's head, Austin walks back to the bedroom and he grabs Jessica by her head and drags her across the floor into the bathroom. And Jessica's eyes probably flutter just for a second as she feels herself being moved. Like that survival instinct that maybe, just for a moment, there is this glimmer of hope that he changed his mind. Maybe he's actually gonna help her and this is going to end. But then Austin lifts her up and forces her face first into the bathtub, plunging her head straight under the water. And Jessica is probably fighting for her life, trying desperately to grab onto like the side of the tub to pull herself up. But Austin, this evil creature, is standing over her with his hands pressed firmly on the back of her head, using his entire body weight to hold her down until eventually her body sadly goes completely still. And now Jessica Ridgway, the girl who woke up this morning excited to see her friends at school, the girl who hugged her mom not even a few hours ago, the girl who had all of these dreams and plans and a whole life ahead of her, is gone. But even with all of that pain that Austin just caused her, this vile creature isn't done with her. He's not even finished. Because while Jessica's body is still floating motionless in this bathtub with her face still submerged in the water, Austin very calmly walks out of the bathroom and gets his hands on a saw. Yes, a freaking saw. Like the thing that you would use for cutting wood or working on construction projects. And he begins dismembering her, using everything that he learned in his mortuary science class about how to body without making mistakes. Now, while all of this is going on, back at Jessica's house, Sarah is finally waking up. It's now 4 p.m. and she's been asleep for like hours and she's probably expecting for Jessica to be home already. But as you already know, Jessica is nowhere near the house. And when Sarah grabs her phone, maybe to check if Jessica texted her, she sees several missed calls from the school. And immediately, like instantly, her stomach drops and she can feel it in her bones that something really bad has happened. So she calls the school back and that's when they tell her the news that every single parent dreads hearing more than anything else in the world. Jessica never made it to school this morning. Now Sarah's brain probably tries to reject this information at first, right? Like finding some type of logical explanation that isn't absolutely terrifying. She's probably thinking, okay, this has to be a mistake. Maybe they forgot to mark her attendance or something. It happens all the time. But the school confirms it. Jessica definitely never arrived. But she couldn't find her anywhere. So rather than wasting more precious time, Sarah grabs her phone with her hands probably trembling from how anxious she is, and she dials 911. And within minutes, literally just minutes, police are pulling up in front of Sarah's house with these lights flashing really bright, and officers are spreading out across the neighborhood, knocking on every single door, asking if anyone saw anything unusual that morning. But no one heard or saw Jessica's screams for help that morning. No one. So for the rest of the entire day, even though officers issued an Amber Alert, even though Jessica's face was everywhere, no one knew that she was already gone. And it wasn't until 2 days later, a man, for story purposes we'll call Joe, is outside taking a walk around the neighborhood on a Sunday afternoon when something on the sidewalk catches his eye, and it's a black backpack just sitting there in the middle of the sidewalk like someone deliberately placed it there. And Joe's thinking, okay, this is kind of weird. Something about this doesn't feel right. And he looks around to see if there's anyone nearby, but the street is completely empty. And with everything going on with Jessica's disappearance, with the Amber Alerts and the search parties and police everywhere, Joe honestly did not want to take any chances. So he pulls out his phone and he calls 911. And he's like, hey, there's this really suspicious bag here on the sidewalk near my house. Y'all should come and check this out like ASAP. And within minutes, police officers arrive to the scene and they approach the bag very cautiously, treating it like it might be evidence. And when they carefully unzip it and start looking inside, what they find makes their heart stop. First was a child's t-shirt completely soaked in urine, and then there was a pair of pants also wet, and a water bottle. And then, and this is when they know, a pair of purple framed glasses, the same purple glasses that Jessica was wearing when she left her house. And the last item that they pull is a keychain with the name Jessica written on it in colorful letters. The officers all look at each other, and you can tell in their faces they know this is definitely Jessica Ridgway's backpack, which clearly means that something really, really bad happened to her. Someone kidnapped her. But the question still remained. Who? Now, you and I obviously already know the answer to that question, but neither the officers or Sarah know that Austin, this 17-year-old boy who lives just 1 mile down the road, already kidnapped Jessica and killed her. And after taking her life, Austin quickly realizes, oh crap, this is a problem. Like, I've made a huge mess here and my mom's coming home soon. And as he's probably pacing back and forth thinking, oh my god, where do I put her? Where do I hide this? That's when this genius over here decides to just shove Jessica's body parts into this crawl space under his house. Real smart, Austin. You really thought that went through, didn't you? And at some point, Austin either sees the news or maybe an officer knocking on his door asking about Jessica, and he realizes that people are actually looking for this girl. And so now he knows it's only a matter of time before he actually gets caught. So either late that night or early morning on Sunday, he decides to grab Jessica's backpack along with her urine-soaked clothes and drive about 6-7 miles away to this random neighborhood and just place her bag there. I'm guessing he thought that if investigators found her bag there, then they would stop searching in his neighborhood and start searching somewhere else instead. Like, oh my god, I hate whenever these idiots think that they're so smart. Anywho, fast forward to about a week after Jessica disappeared, and no one, not her mom, not the cops, has any idea that they're never going to find Jessica alive. And I could imagine that by this point, Austin is probably feeling really confident. I mean, he still hasn't been caught, right? But I also think that this confidence is actually slowly fading away, because as investigators start bringing out helicopters and more search dogs, as these search parties keep growing and growing and growing, I can only imagine how stressful that must be. Austin, feeling a little nervous there, buddy? And he's probably over here sitting in his room thinking, oh my god, I still have a decomposing body in my crawl space. At some point, my room's gonna start stinking and my mom might smell it. And so he comes up with yet another brilliant idea. I'll just get rid of some of the parts. And that's exactly what he does. He grabs some of Jessica's remains and puts them inside of this black garbage bag, and then he drives to this isolated field in Arvada, about 7 miles away from Jessica's home, looking for where he can dump them at. And he ends up finding this spot like near a culvert, and he checks to make sure that no one's watching, and then he just leaves the bag there like it's regular trash. Then he drives home, probably thinking that he just covered his tracks, probably feeling like he just outsmarted everyone. But spoiler alert, he didn't. Because 3 days later, on October 10th, 5 days after Jessica disappeared, some maintenance workers are working out in that exact field doing their regular rounds, picking up trash. And one of them spots this black bag near the culvert. And he's probably thinking, okay, this is just regular trash, so he plans on walking over there to toss it into his truck. But when he lifts the bag, he immediately notices that it's way heavier than it should be, and there is this awful stench coming from it. So he sets